Welcome back to another fabulous Powerfly Chat and Learn event. My name is Meg Alexander, and I am, as always, excited and honored to get to host you all today. I can't wait to introduce you to today's speaker, but before we dive in there, I just want to go over a couple quick housekeeping items and welcome you all to today's event. Now, these will be a little bit repetitive if you've joined us for previous events, so apologies for that. But if this is your first event with Powerfly, then hi, welcome. We're so happy that you joined us today. So what you should know is that today's event, like all of our virtual events, is all about you. It's about our audience members and making sure that you all get the value that you came to get from today's event. So you can do that in a couple different ways. You are always encouraged to participate in our events. You can do so by turning on your camera if you'd like. You can share your smiling, maskless faces with us safely. But y'all, truly, no need to be Instagram perfect. I think I'm on day 5 of the dry shampoo messy bun combo. We don't care if you are coming to us from a corner office or your living room couch. It truly makes no difference to us. We just want to meet you where you are. So if you'd like to participate with your cameras, awesome, great, love to see it. If you would prefer to participate in another way, there we go. I'm starting to see people showing up on camera. Thank you. If you want to participate in the chat, you're also welcome to do so there. So I'm going to encourage y'all to dive in there. Let us know where you're joining us from. I'm coming to you from Toledo, Ohio. This is land that belongs to the Fox, Kickapoo, and Potawatomi tribes in my area. So if you would like to let us know where you're joining us from, and if you do know, please feel free to share whose land you're on. Now, the good thing about today's event is that as we're going and learning and sharing all these amazing resources with people, you all don't have to take notes. You get to sit back, you get to relax, because we're recording this entire event. So what that means is whether you can join us for the full time, maybe you have to dive in and out, doesn't matter. You are always welcome to join us here. And once the event concludes in about 4 to 5 business days, Powerfly is going to send you an email with a link to where you can rewatch this event when we post the recording on the powerfly.com website. Now, if you don't want to have to wait 4 to 5 business days, let's say that something that Fabiola says today is just so mind-blowing. You cannot wait to share it with a friend or a coworker or a relative. You don't have to wait. You can always head over to our YouTube channel. I'm going to share links for all of this in the chat thread as we go, so don't worry there, y'all. But I'll be sharing links there. You can head over to our YouTube channel and find the post is usually, the video is usually posted by the end of the day, usually about 15, 20 minutes after the live stream ends. So you can always check it out there as well. Now, there is, a huge section of our past chats. We've got a big archive that you can search on our YouTube channel there, but the full history, I'm talking everything that's happened from the very first Lunch and Learn event with Lauren Haggerty all the way up through today, all of that archive, all of those resources are available on powerfly.com. So while I do recommend that you check out our YouTube channel, we've got some really great stuff going on there. I also really recommend that you take a look around powerfly.com and take a look at some of these amazing free resources that we have to offer. Now, like I said, I do encourage y'all to chime in the chat there. Ooh, we've got people chiming in. Okay, we've got Cologne, Germany. We've got Berlin, Costa Rica. We've got, let's see, Hollywood, Florida on Seminole land. Thank you, Mei Lang. We've also got Argentina. Oh my gosh, I'm loving all of this. Covington, Washington. Thank y'all. I love seeing how far our global audience spreads. Thank you. All right. So as I said, if you want to contribute, please feel free. Chime in the chat. Just make sure that, as always, we are leading from a place of kindness and respect. Now, I'm going to introduce you to our speaker today. But before I do, they are here today on behalf of SoftwareOne. So obviously SoftwareOne is a partner with Powerfly, and we are really excited about this partnership and cannot wait to see how many more Powerfly success stories we can find at today's event or, throughout the entirety of the Powerfly talent community. So I'm going to share links for all of this, but definitely take a look at SoftwareOne's company page on powerfly.com. It's going to look much like what you see in front of you. From there, you can take a look and learn more about their company culture, about their benefits. You can take a look at events that'll lead you to recordings of past events that they've partnered on with us, as well as registration pages for any events that they might have in place coming up in the future. And then, as always, you can take a look at their open roles by clicking that jobs tab. Now, once you are there, especially if something that you hear today, kind of piques your interest about SoftwareOne, I really recommend that you click that big pink button that says follow. So it's going to do a couple different things, but basically it's going to put you on SoftwareOne's follow network. It's going to allow Powerfly to take some of the weight off of you in your job search, because we're going to tell you when they post new roles, but we're also going to let SoftwareOne know that you are interested in working with them even before you fill out an application. So it's a really, really great feature to utilize if you are actively job seeking, but maybe don't see anything right now that you want to apply for. Or if you're not actively seeking, but you want to make sure that when you are, you come back to a really nice short list of great companies that you know already are walking the walk and talking the talk when it comes to DEIB. So definitely take a look at SoftwareOne's company page. And I'm really excited to introduce you to Fabiola, who's here today on behalf of SoftwareOne. Now, Fabiola is a senior talent acquisition partner. She has over 8 years of talent acquisition experience recruiting for most countries in the Americas, identifying top talent and matching them with the perfect career opportunities. Fabiola has a passion for connecting people with their dream jobs and building diverse and inclusive teams. Welcome to the stage, Fabiola. We're so happy to have you here today.
Thank you, Meg. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. Very happy to be here. So glad to see people from all over the world. I did see a few messages coming up: London, Germany, US, Costa Rica. Very happy to be here. Very excited to share a little bit of my knowledge with all of you. I am from one of the most beautiful countries in the world. I'm from Costa Rica. Please follow me via LinkedIn and get to know me a little bit better. Thank you so much, Meg, for that intro.
Oh, thank you. All right, y'all. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen here so that we can get to asking Fabiola some questions. Now, if you submitted a question during registration and you're not sure if we're going to get to it today, ask it in the chat. If we are going over one of your questions and maybe there's some more context or more information that we should know, send it in the chat. If you think of a question and you want to dive in more on some topic that we're talking about, maybe a terminology doesn't make sense, ask in the chat. All right, y'all. I want to make sure that the time that you spend with us today is well worth it. And we're going to do that by making sure I bring you the answers you want. So can't ask if I don't know what you want to know. All right, let's get us started. One of the questions that we got, this one came in a lot, actually, and I think it's a really good place for us to start. When you are reading a resume, what is something that might be frequently catching your attention? Are there any tips that you have on how we can make sure that our documents stand out in the pile that you might see in front of you on a given day?
Sure. This is a very good question, actually, because there are many ways to create a resume. And as a matter of fact, if you don't know, there are several templates that you can use that are in Word. Free templates, there's a bunch. And it's very important, first off, right, that your contact information is in the resume. Like, it's easy to see your email, your phone number. No need to put age, no need to put a picture either. Just contact information, and then a very small paragraph that talks about you. And something that catches my attention when I see a resume, and I've started to see that not too long ago, is that people add the company name to that paragraph, like their interest in working for SoftwareOne, for example, and becoming whatever they're applying for. So they add the job title. Very important. At the company name that you've worked for, the job title that you had, and the time frame that you worked there. If this was a temporary position, put it in parentheses just for us recruiters to know. Sometimes there are people that work 3 months and we're like, oh, this is a jumper. And that might not be true. It's just that it's a temporary position, or it was an internship also. So it's important to add that. And in bullet points, add your main responsibilities, something that tells what you did. And if there were any achievements, add that as well. That's super important. So those are like the tips that I can tell you that catch my attention and that are important. Also, if in the job description you see that for that position they are requiring experience in, I don't know, let's say SAP or whatever CRM that, and you may have experience in that, make sure you add it to your job description, to your resume as well. Because that will be a keyword that us recruiters will be looking for if it's a must in a job description. So make sure that you are reading the job descriptions before you send out your resume to a job, to make sure that your resume says that what they are looking for, you have it. Because sometimes we create a general resume, we miss a little bit of information that that company may be needing. So those are a few tips and tricks that I can think of.
Excellent, really good ones. And you know what? That's a good point to talk about the specific job, right? Not just saying like, oh yeah, and I'm looking for a role that can bring me such and such challenges or something. I think that's a really good point to add that little extra little kind of customization there, to include not just the company that you're applying to, but the job title that you're applying to as well.
Yeah, and it catches the recruiter's attention. You're like, okay, wow, that person took the time to read a little bit about the job description, or to add that company's name to the resume. And I know it might be a little bit of work, right, if you're applying for several companies. But hey, if it works, it will be amazing.
Yeah, can't hurt. Okay, so let's talk about some of the more common mistakes that you've seen. What are some ones that really, that are kind of red flags that jump out at you, and what are some ways that we could avoid those?
So for resumes, red flags are really the opposite of what I just said. For example, I see a lot of resumes that do not have the time frame that they worked at a company, or it doesn't tell me what exactly they did. I've seen resumes where a lot of people have the idea that a resume needs to be a page long. Not necessarily, right? I mean, may have experience in 3 companies, 4 companies, you need to add a little bit about, what they said. I'm not saying create a 5-page long resume. We have to be careful about that. But I'll say 2 pages is completely fine. It's normal. So there are people that I've seen that they probably try to make that page long resume, and they don't talk much about their experience. So you just have like the company name, and the job title. And then below that, company name and job title. So that doesn't tell me much. And I need more information. As a recruiter, we need more information. Also, when we send the resume over to the hiring manager, they need more information. So yeah, definitely that. And then sometimes it's very hard to find the contact information. There are people that you use it like at the bottom of the resume or like in the header, and it's hard. So I recommend to put it top close to your name. So those are a few other tips that I can give, or red flags that I see in resumes. And that also, we see people that work 3 months, 6 months, and the resume is not really telling me what happened. And sometimes they've worked temporary, and we need to add that information.
No, I think that's a really good point. As you're talking about this, like, and I'm thinking about some of the stuff that we hear people ask, should I add in? Yeah, it does make a ton of sense that, based on the dates that someone is available or someone has worked someplace, it could send a weird message. Do you have other things that you recommend people highlight that for? So you said like internships, if something was like a contract job or a temporary role, are there anything else like that they should specify? Like if it was a co-op or, whatever.
Yeah, everything specify, right? Put it in parentheses: co-op, internship, temporary, contract. And also there are people that, for example, I don't know, a mom that hasn't worked for a year and a half, 2 years, because they decided to take care of their kids, for example. It's okay to add it in the resume, maybe in that small paragraph, something very you don't have to tell your whole story why, but if it's been a while and the recruiter may be like, I wonder what happened. Why did this person not work? I was on sabbatical. Just, mention it there. Just for us to know. Nothing too long, because we'll go over it in the interview process. But just make sure that we are aware of it.
Yeah, no, these are very good tips. Thank you. Okay, so this person, Angela, has just written in the chat saying, how far back do you go with your work history, especially if you're trying to keep the resume to a couple of pages? So let's talk about this. If you are looking at your resume, like, okay, I'm 37. I've been working since I was 20. How far back would you expect most people to go? Is it reasonable to go back 5 to 6 years? Should you be going back further than that? What have you seen?
I really don't think it's like a year kind of thing. It really depends on each person and the position that you're applying to, right? I will say that for these cases where you have, I don't know, 10 years of experience and you probably worked 6 years at the same company, try to summarize that information, that what you did at that company, especially if you had several jobs there. Also very important, add that in your resume. If you worked at XYZ company and you had 3 different roles, mention that in your resume. Mention that you started here, you did this, and you went up there. So I think that it really depends on the role. I think personally, 10 years, it's good, And then if you had, prior to that, you had more experience, mention it in the resume as well. Mention it. Maybe summarize it a little bit more and emphasize more in the areas that you have experience in and that you're applying for, right?
Yeah.
So like I think that's.
So if you've jumped between industries maybe, and you went from industry A to industry B, and now you're trying to go back into industry A again, then yeah, you are going to have to talk about how industry B was your most recent experience. But yeah, you'd probably focus a little bit more on the industry experience you had previously.
Exactly,
right?
Meg. Exactly.
Right. All right, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, we did have another question here. Duncan is asking, what do you recommend for career changers or people who don't have experience in their field yet? So I mean, this kind of seems to go along the same way, right? Like you would highlight the things that could potentially relate, or where you would have like maybe transferable skills.
Yeah, and it's happening a lot. We have a lot of people right now that are transferring over to IT, for example. And usually these people that are transferring careers and that are making that change, they've taken courses, they have certifications, they've taken that time to get into that field slowly, right? Slowly but surely. So make sure you add that in the resume. Make sure you are adding that in that same paragraph, interested in, making a career change, and adding in that resume courses that you've taken. If you started in a college course and what you're looking for, make sure that's added in the resume as well. Make sure you tell us that you're looking for that career change.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. One of the things that I hear a lot, I had never heard until I worked in recruiting, right? So until I worked for Powerfly, I had never heard anybody describe the way the different parts of applications work, right? So things like your LinkedIn profile versus a resume versus a cover letter. I'd never had these things broken down for me before. And one of the things that I feel like people should know is that when we're talking about like formatting and things, it's because you are looking at a recruiter who's probably going to be looking at 10 resumes an hour. So you need to be able to jump out fast, and it needs to be obvious to them. And I feel like I wasted a ton of time trying to be like, okay, well, does this sound right? And it's like, no. It doesn't need to sound a certain way. It just needs to be clear what you are in and where you're looking to go, because you're trying to, in anything like a cover letter or like a statement of intent or an objective or something they used to have you put on resumes. The whole point is to be connecting dots that recruiter can't connect just by looking at what else is written on your resume.
Exactly.
So, yeah, like think of it in terms of that. If somebody reads this, how quickly are they going to understand that you're coming from teaching and you now want to be a lion tamer? And you're like, I can control large groups of wild animals. Of course I'm fine as a lion tamer. But you have to explain that because otherwise nobody's going to understand why you're working,
Exactly.
you're going
Yeah.
from university to Ringling Brothers. Like they're not going
And
to get.
exactly, Megan, that's a great example. And now that you mention it, LinkedIn is very important. LinkedIn is like the superstar and for recruiters. That's like our tool. So like Meg said, be clear, keywords, very important. And that's what I said before, right? Read the job description, read the must-haves. If there is something there that you have and you don't have it in your resume, add it to your resume, add it to your LinkedIn. It's very important to have your LinkedIn profile updated. With all the information, if you have, ask for recommendations as well from your past employers, colleagues, hiring managers that you worked with. That's actually something very good that you can do. Ask for recommendations via LinkedIn. They add it to your profile, and believe me, we recruiters look at that, and LinkedIn should be updated all the time.
Yeah, that's a very good one to know. And then y'all, just to, obviously we love LinkedIn. They're one of our best partners. But just to toot Powerfly's own horn, your Power to Fly profile is not viewable by other applicants. So unlike your LinkedIn profile, which you might be hesitant to change things or hesitant to put certain things on because of who else might be in your network, maybe you are connected to your employers or something. Powerfly accounts are not viewable like that. They're only viewable to, admin people on the inside of Powerfly and then hiring partners. So if you have any concerns there and obviously we want to make sure all of our information is up to date, especially if you're job seeking. But just as a heads up, if you're at all unsure or worried about that, you can update your Power to Fly profile and not have to worry about anybody seeing it outside of, hirers within our network. So just as a heads up, y'all.
Amazing.
Yeah. All right, let's see here. Okay, so Dan had chimed in. Dan says, I worked for a particular company under a corporate umbrella for 4 years, and then I moved to another company also under the corporate umbrella. Would I denote that this is a new role? How would you denote that this is a new role, since technically it's for the same company? I don't want to appear to be a job hopper.
Mm-hmm.
I've done this I know how I've done this in the past, but I'm not the expert. So Fabiola, how would you like to see this presented?
So it's basically that this company acquired, like they have this acquisition where they.
It doesn't look like acquisition. It looks like I worked for
or they
Disney
were transferred.
and yeah, it looks like like I worked at Disney World and then I moved and worked at Disneyland. You know what I mean? It seems like something that's not a great. Man, my metaphors are not great today, but it doesn't sound like an acquisition like a transfer. Or anything. Yeah, it sounds like just like within the same umbrella.
Mm-hmm. Okay. What you can do there then is and that happens, believe it or not, it happens a lot. But what you can do there, it's add the company name. So the first company that you worked for, tell us what you did, and then add the new company's name that you were transferred to, but in parentheses, you can keep the company's name, the prior one that you worked for. You could do that. Another thing that you could do, since it's kind of like the same company, it was just like a transfer, is add the dates that you worked there for both companies, and then separate. For one, you worked from here to here, and then for this one, you work here for here, and you can add like a sentence that it was a transfer.
Yeah. Julia is chiming in the chat here saying, I wish there wasn't still such judgment around or assumptions about job hopping because this isn't our parents' generation anymore. I think this is absolutely accurate. I have my youngest sister is in recruiting. And so that was something that kind of surprised me to hear about like 6 or 7 years ago. She said something about job hopping and was like, well, yeah, but I mean, job hopping is still a thing, right? She was like, yeah, but it's not. She's like, if we see that you've worked like 6 jobs in the last year, then yeah, maybe depending on if your contract or if you're a freelance worker or whatever. But I think it is really important to note that, people they don't find a company and stay there for 35 years anymore. It just
Yeah,
doesn't
not
happen.
anymore.
No.
Not anymore. And then you're completely right. It's a different generation. And there's a lot of competition out there as well. But it is important. And for example, I've recruited for not only Latin America, but also North America, US, Canada, Mexico. And every culture is a little bit different, right? But like you said, it is a little bit eye-catching when you see someone in a year that's been in 3 different jobs. You kind of want to know what happened there, because we're also looking for a stability, right?
Yeah, of course. Which makes a ton of sense,
Mm-hmm.
Let's see here. I know I'm going back to make sure I haven't missed any questions that have come through in the chat. So if you have them, please feel free to keep sending them in here. All right, let's talk about some ways that we can try and stand out in the actual interview itself. Are there any ways that you prepare that you think other people should as well?
Yeah, so it is very important, and we can go, I'm going to name them, and then we can go in each, deeper in each one. Right now we have a very famous online interview. It's after the pandemic, this became even more popular, and I know that's still being done. For example, 100% of my interviews are done online. So there are kind of 2 tips there for online interviews and for face-to-face interviews. And there are some tips that go for both. Be on time. That's very important. Be on time. Be logged in 2-3 minutes before. Make sure if you're online that everything's working fine, that you're not having any issues with your internet. And if you are, that's fine. Let us know. Send us an email. We'll reschedule. That's no problem. We know it's normal. It happened to me as a recruiter. It will happen to anyone else. So that's completely fine. And hiring managers know that. So just let us know. Especially 2-3 minutes before the interview. There was a question that came in about body language. Don't exaggerate your body language. Be authentic. Be natural. There is a very thin line between talking too much and talking too little. So let the interviewer kind of guide the conversation. Respond to what they're asking. Mention your achievements. That's very important. Your energy is so important. Your energy, your attitude in an interview, it's very important. To me, is the most important thing. To come out humble, to come out like a person that you have interest, and inform yourself about the company. Read a little bit about the company. We like to ask the candidate if, what have you heard about SoftwareOne? Tell us a little bit about that. And surprisingly, there's a lot of people that they're just like, oh, I don't know, and you're like, okay. So, what happened there? Make sure you read a little bit about the company and inform yourself also about the job that you're applying for. Read the job description, and ask questions. Ask questions.
Yeah, I think that's really good tips. And honestly, you would be surprised the amount of people that don't do any research about the company itself before they go. And truly, I'm not throwing stones in a glass house. I have done this myself. I literally showed up to a job interview thinking I was interviewing at a place that made packing materials, only to find out that they sold videotapes. That's how old I am. Cassette tapes like that. And I find this out at the interview. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you don't do these things because I'm just so perfect and I've never done them. No, I've done this too, y'all. It's okay. Learn from.
And it happens. It happens a lot. And it happens a lot. So just, take that time to look in Google, a YouTube video, and that will tell you that'll be, I think 10 minutes will be fine. We don't expect you to know everything about the company, just a little bit of background.
Well, and if you are applying for a company that does partner with Powerfly, going onto their company page, you're going to be able to find a whole bunch of stuff, not just like information that they've sent out to us and job descriptions and stuff. You're also going to be able to see, have we made any blog posts highlighting any of them? We do Meet the Recruiter videos where we interview specific people from the recruiter teams. So every single one of those company pages on powerfly.com, huge, absolutely huge, massive like wealth of information, so that way you can do those quick YouTube or quick searches and get some information that's good for you, that'll help you stand out. I like that a lot. Okay, this person had wanted to know what are some of the most important soft skills that employers look for in candidates during interviews. So let's break down soft skills in case people are unfamiliar with the term. When you think soft skills, what comes to mind for you?
So soft skills are those skills that you have and that you can put in place in the company, right? In answering the question, I think one of the most important ones is communication skills. This is because almost in every job, I want to say all of them, but let's say almost, you're going to have to talk to people. You're either going to have to work with internal clients or external clients, and you're going to need to have that interaction. So communication skills for me is one of the most important ones. And we do take that into consideration in our interview. Also, in this new generation, teamwork is very important. In order for you to achieve an objective, you're going to need the help from someone. So it's important for us to know that you are able to work in a team, that you are able to work with people, and be, and have that empathy, hear ideas and everything. So in your interviews, when you talk about your achievements, also mention how someone in your team gave you a hand, or how that was being done with the help of other teammates. And that will tell us, oh, this person is, likes to work in a team. They value that. So those are two very important. One, adaptability as well. It's very important. A lot of companies, or all of the companies really, go through a lot of changes. And I think it's normal now, where, everything changes from one day to the other. So it's important for you to demonstrate that in your interview with examples. If you worked at a company, for example, the question that we had before, that you were transferred, how did you adapt to that change? So make sure you talk about that in your interview. So I think to mention 3, for example, those will be it.
I like that. Okay, so let's go back a step here, because we did get another question about resume formatting and stuff like this.
Okay.
I love this question because I sit in on the ageism chats as well, and I love this question because we get it on both sides. So Mei-Ling is asking, is it important to include graduation year? I worked in industry through the end of undergrad, so I don't want my recent graduation date to take away from my work experience. And this is something we hear in the ageism chat too, right? Because people are like, well, I don't want to tell them what year I graduated, because then they're going to think that I went to kindergarten with Jesus. So let's talk about that. Like, when it comes to something like a graduation year, do you recommend that we include it or not?
It's not necessary. It's not necessary to include it. Just include the university that you graduated from, and the degree that you obtained. Graduation date doesn't, and it may create a bias as well. So it's not really necessary. If you want to include it, great. If not, it's fine. I mean, just tell us that you've graduated, name of university, and that will be it.
Okay. All right. Okay, so let's talk about how you can how we can practice for behavioral based interview questions. Obviously, there's a bunch of questions, or there's a bunch of applications or roles that you can apply for that you can be reasonably certain there's going to be some sort of like a skills test or something. how should we prep for something that's just behavioral based?
Yeah, so behavioral based interviews are kind of tricky because you never know what they're going to ask you. I think here what you can do before an interview, and I tell this to everyone, think about sit down and think about your past jobs, achievements that you had, challenges that you had to face, and how did you deal with them. Remember that behavioral based interviews, what we're looking for is the STAR method. So situation, task, actions, and result, right? Those are, and there are other behavioral based interviews, but this is kind of in general. So make sure that when you think about these cases, you think about the situation, the action, and make sure you stay in that line. Don't go out the tangents, right? Talking about something else. Make sure you say that. So practice before the interview, at home with someone or on your own. Okay, I remember I faced this at this company, and this is how I faced it, and this is what I did, and these were the results to that. Um, and trust me, if you do that when you're in the interview, it doesn't matter what kind of question you get, you're gonna think of something because you've already practiced, and make sure you stay in those lines. So yeah, I think that will be it. And again, don't talk too much, don't talk too little. Make sure you stay on those lines, right? And if you don't know, and it's okay. It's okay if they tell me about a situation where this happened. You may not have an example. It's okay. Companies have other questions to substitute that one. Feel free to tell them, I'm sorry, I really can't think of one right now. Can we please change the question, um, or can I tell you about something in my personal life that happened? Feel free. It's okay.
I love that advice there. Thank you so much, Fabiola, for sharing that, because I feel like there's we prepare so much for some of these questions and for some of these interviews that it's really easy to get in your own head about it, right? And nobody does this. Like, nobody applies for jobs because they think it's fun, right? It's just not. It's not a thing people do for giggles.
Yeah,
So it can be really stressful, and I think it is very good to be able to acknowledge, like, hey, I generally know the answer to this question, but I'm very freaked out right now because I really want this job. So could we go to another question just real quick, and then we can come back to that one in a minute? Is that all right?
exactly.
Like,
Exactly.
it's
Be
okay.
transparent, be yourself. I
Yeah.
mean, and Meg, the good thing here, and I think there's about a lot, we're in, and we talked about it, generation. It's a totally different generation. We
Mhm.
have recruiters, hiring leaders that know how freaked out you are before an interview. And most interviews right now are a conversation, it's okay. I'm a person. Let's talk. Let's talk.
Yeah.
It's not that strict interview where they make you feel
Like
super
you're in front of
freaked
firing
out. Yeah,
squad.
exactly.
Yeah.
It's not the same anymore.
Well, I also think a lot of it comes from the fact that, granted, this differs job to job, but most of us know, and we exist in a world in which everybody uses Google to help them do their job all of the time. We all do. Anybody that says they're not, they're lying to you. Okay. We all use Google. It's fine. But I think that becomes, or has, at least to a certain point, is a bit of a generational switch, because you're used to people who think that they need to memorize everything and have it at their fingertips. And it's like, no. I just need to remember where to go to get that information. So
Exactly.
I think it definitely comes into play a little bit there as well, where it's like, okay, I'm a little bit on the spot right now and kind of terrified, but I promise I'm smart enough to find you that answer. So just, give me a second to breathe a little bit and remember how to search my own memory banks here. Yeah, that's great. Okay, so let's talk about how to respond, or how to talk about a job if the situation that you left was not ideal. One person chimed in the chat here saying, I'm mid-career and I left a long-standing job of 10 years due to discrimination from my manager. How do you suggest I handle this in the hiring process, especially since I don't have a reference from this job? I left quietly, but my manager has used her influence to make it difficult for them to use their influence to make it difficult to get a reference from fellow colleagues. So, this is your most recent job. You have to be able to talk about it in some way. How would you recommend touching on that subject?
Yeah, this is kind of tricky. I do not recommend to talk negative about jobs, prior jobs that you were part of. But also at the same time, be transparent, right? So here we go with the thin lines, right? I've had examples, yeah, with where candidates have gone through a situation like this and they find a way to tell me, but they don't talk about their their past job, right? So I think in a case like this, if they ask you in an interview, what happened, what was the reason of leaving your past job, you can tell them, I'm so thankful, with the experience that I gained at this job opportunity. I grew a lot as a person, as a professional, but maybe my values weren't aligned with the company values or with the hiring managers or with the manager's values. And try to choose your words wisely, right? Like, don't try to get every job has a positive and a negative side. Try to focus on the positive and then finish it with, maybe if my values weren't aligned or that I was looking for something else, or I reached my point, and talking about professional, right? Professional, like I couldn't
there
go.
wasn't any further growth in that.
Yeah, there wasn't exactly, Meg. Exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean that, be honest in that, and then talk about, I was looking for something else, more professional growth. My objective or my goal is to become a leader, and I didn't think this was going to happen here, but I learned a lot, and
yeah,
something like that.
No, I think that's a really good way to put it. Focus on what you learned from it, because I've had a lot of jobs, y'all, and learned a lot of things because a lot of things went wrong. So like for me, being able to lean on the fact of like, okay, I learned how not to be a manager. I learned that I don't deal well with this kind of work style. I learned, so you get to the point where you can pull that diamond out of the rough no matter where, but it is absolutely perfectly fine to just say, look, like, here's what I was able to learn from it. Unfortunately, I wasn't going to be able to continue on because, the growth wasn't there. Whatever. There's ways to say it to make it clear that, you did learn things there, but it's not a place that you're going to go back to. And that's okay. Like, that's completely fine. Okay. Let's make sure we touch on this one because we only have about 15 minutes left. And I know we want to make sure we've got so many questions.
Wow, this went by fast.
I know, right? I'm telling you, it always goes so much faster than people think. Okay, so a lot of people have questions about the what salary are you looking for question when it comes to compensation. And this can really feel like a really crucial part of the interview process, especially if you're trying to move up in pay, or if you are trying to move to a different industry or a different role. Then it can seem even more dicey because you don't know. So what do you recommend? How do you recommend applicants handle this question?
Okay, so let's focus on you're looking for a new job in your field. You're not changing at all. You already have experience in this area. We all have an expectation. We all have a salary expectation. We know what we have to pay each month. And we know that we need X amount. So here's what I recommend. There are, for example, I know that when hiring in North America, it wasn't really normal to disclose like your prior salary, but in LATAM it's totally different. So something that I tell, the people is like, tell the recruiter, listen, I'm open to negotiate. In my prior company, this was my compensation approximately. You don't have to give an an exact amount. And I'm expecting somewhere between this and this. Depends on benefits. I'm open to hear about your benefits. I'm open to hear about your growth opportunities, and I'm open to negotiate, you know? So that's that. It's important for us recruiters to know the expectation. We're not, in our case here at SoftwareOne, we do not reject candidates because of their job expectation. And let me tell you, I've had interviews. At the end of the interview, I was like, this is the candidate. It's amazing. And at the end, I asked them their salary expectation, and they tell me a number that's totally off from what I have here. And I'm open, I'm transparent. I'm like, hey, you're an amazing candidate. I believe you have what we're looking for, but right now our pay range is between this and this, and I want to be completely transparent with you. Even though you already have these numbers, would you like to continue? Yes or no? And now the ball is on their court, right? But that give them a range and tell them how open you are to negotiate, and how interested you are in the position. During the interview, do not focus a lot on salary, because that's definitely a down point for us, where we're like, oh, this person is more focused on salary, not really the growth opportunities or the company. So tell them how interested you are, how you like the interview and what we talked about, and that you're interested in negotiating. And then we have the other, turning the page here a little bit on that person that's switching career, that don't have any idea how the market is. So do your search a little bit. See how much a junior role for that, what you're looking for, is paying, and be open with the recruiter. Hey, I've done my search, and I saw that this is what the market it's paying. I'm totally open to that, and totally open to negotiating. My main focus here is to grow and to continue learning. So that's my recommendation. Say a number. Yes, it's very important. If you don't want to say a number, say a range from here, between here and here, and mention how important it is for you to work there and to learn and to grow.
Yeah. Well, and I think it also is a good point to remember that, when we're talking about things like compensation, dollars are not the only thing that's part of the equation, right? So you might be looking for, a new role because you want to work closer to home, right? So maybe the fact that the new job is going to be remote, so you can have, a more flexible schedule, maybe that means more to you than necessarily a change in pay. That doesn't, it might not be that way. None of us live on water and sunshine, so we all need to make money in order to live. So, we all get this, but I think you're right. It is, think about it in terms of not just like dollars wise, like what you'd like to be making, but like, are there other things within that of like, well, I don't necessarily need this high of a dollar figure if I have more days of PTO a year I can use, or something like that. So, thinking outside the box there might be very creative, and very, might really benefit you. And I'm loving the fact, Fabiola, that you get kind of level set with people and say like, hey, you said you want to make 8,000 crab sandwiches a year. And actually right now we're offering like 400 crab sandwiches a year. So how would that fit for you? So I like that. I think that it's very helpful, and honestly, very fair to everyone's time,
Exactly. And I know there are states in the US and in other countries where the salary range has to go in the job description. Doesn't apply for everybody, unfortunately. But yeah, I think it's important for the candidate to be transparent, and for us as the interviewer to be transparent as well. Saves time.
Oh, of course. Absolutely. Okay. This person had wanted, okay, I thought this was a really good question. I am also old enough that I remember being told to send physical thank you notes after interviews. I remember being told that like, if you didn't do this, you were basically telling them you didn't want the job. Now, that is not necessarily the case anymore. But especially when postings, job postings may or may not say who's going to be interviewing you, or who you could be contacting or reaching out to about these interviews, like, either pre or post. So what do you recommend for follow-up, for, sending a thank you note or something like that? Once that interview concludes, what do you recommend people do?
So I love to see after my conversation with someone where they send you a thank you note via email, right? Like it doesn't have to be anything sent home or the office. Just a thank you note. It was great talking to you. If you have any questions, I'm here. Or even if you haven't heard from that recruiter, because it happens, right? Unfortunately, it happens. If you haven't heard from that recruiter 5 days, 4 days, you can send an email following up. Like, hey, it was great talking to you. I wanted to know if there is something I can do, if there's some document that you need in order to continue, how's the process going? I'm completely interested. I'm still interested, and I was just following up. That's fine, and that's good. It shows that the person is interested. It
Yeah,
doesn't bother me at all, and I
excellent.
don't think it bothers anybody really.
Yeah, I have had people ask about like who they, where to reach out to, especially if like they don't have an email address for the person that interviewed them. I have always just like reached out to their main help desk, like, hey, I interviewed for such and such job
Mhm.
today. Please let so and so know. I was really happy to speak with them or something. Um,
Exactly. You will always have a point of contact. And that's more than likely the recruiter or someone in the talent acquisition team. So feel free to write to them. We're here to, give that candidate experience, and we know how nervous that person gets and how their expectations are. So we try to get to everyone as soon as possible. Sometimes that doesn't happen because sometimes things happen. But feel free. I think it's okay. Completely fine.
yeah, it's a good one. Angelia is saying, I've been working with a hiring manager who's been very slow or does not respond, but when they have communicated, it's been very positive. And they said that they're moving this person on. Totally understandable there. When I have done this in the past, and full disclosure, y'all, I did this with Powerfly because stuff moves fast and you don't always have time to check your email 8 times a day.
Yeah.
I would email back saying like, hey, it was really great talking today, blah, blah, blah. I'm hoping to hear from you in a couple weeks. If I haven't heard from you by 3 weeks from today, I'll reach back out. So I kind of set up that long range planning. I keep it sparse, both for myself, because I mean, if you're applying for multiple jobs, nobody has the time to continuously be doing this for everyone. So I tend to do somewhere within like a 5 to 7 working day span. So that way you're not bugging them all the time. You're setting up a boundary of like, hey, I'm going to reach out at this point. If I hear from you before then, great. If not, I totally understand. So kind of level setting and recognizing that like, I usually try and state, I know you're busy and you probably have a lot going on. I try and be really clear about what I'm trying to get. Like, should I follow up with you at like past a certain point, blah, blah, blah. And then I make it clear, like, I'm going to reach out to you again on blah, blah, blah. So that way they know to expect you. It's less of a like nagging kind of thing and more of a like, hey, just checking in, making sure that you haven't lost sight of me. So that might help for y'all. No, I don't know if
Yeah.
that'll work for
Yeah.
anybody.
Yeah. Make sure you're not following up every day, right?
Yeah.
So that 5-7 day span is amazing.
Okay. Last question I want to try and get to here. People always ask and get stuck on weakness questions. It can feel like you're being asked to share something that's going to discount you or discredit you from the job. How do you recommend people answer these questions? And is there maybe like a different way we should think about answering them, like why they're asked?
Okay, it's important to answer them. We all have our weaknesses. What's the thing here? Turn that negative answer into a positive one. So, for example, I don't know. My biggest weakness is to present in front of people, talk in front of people in public. However, I'm working to be better at that by taking some courses online. Um, by, I don't know, practicing at school or practicing at church, who knows?
By doing events like this.
Exactly. Exactly. Throwing myself out there, try to lose that fear. So turn your weakness, if you know you have a weakness, work on it and tell the interviewer that you are working on it and that your expectations is to become better at it. So that's my short answer there. Basically, turn that negative thing into a positive turnout. This is what I'm doing to be better. and to lose that and make it a strength instead.
Yeah. I mean, you can also use it to kind of help set yourself up for success at the company too. I mean, I think a lot of the time when I've been asked that question in the past, one of mine has been that I have a tendency to not ask for help. I have a tendency to just try and take on as much as I can myself. And so I work on reminding myself of this and making sure that I'm like actually reaching out, but it also serves to tell the people around me like, hey, you might want to like poke me and be like, hey, are you sure you're good for this on your own?
Yeah, there you go.
So like, yeah, you're sharing something that's like not necessarily great because you know, if you put somebody in a role and they've got all these people around you, you want to know that they're going to ask for help. But by recognizing a flaw in yourself that you are currently working on, it does make it much more, it doesn't make it a liability. It makes it something that you are aware of and working on, and not something that you wish was not true. And so you're ignoring it, if that makes sense.
There you go.
All right, we have about 4 minutes left. I want to make sure we save some time here to go over these questions that we had asked Fabiola prior to today's session. So we asked some questions about SoftwareOne, how you describe the company culture, and your favorite parts about working at SoftwareOne. Let's talk about your interview tip first, and then if we've got time, we'll go to one of the other ones. Is your interview tip SoftwareOne specific, or do you think this could apply no matter where people are interviewing?
Meg, this could apply everywhere, really. Not only to SoftwareOne, to any company that you're applying for. Be natural, be yourself, be confident, not arrogant, confident. There's a big difference. And this will help for every company, for sure.
Yeah, I think that's a good one. Now, when it comes to attitude is everything, has there ever been somebody that came in with an attitude that you were like, oh, I haven't seen this before, and it turned out to be like really, really interesting? Or do you think it's a situation where it's more about like carrying yourself and less about like how you're coming across?
Yeah, I've had all kinds of cases, right? I can think of a few here, but we as interviewers, we know when someone it's coming out a little bit too strong or probably not being their self at all in the interview. So yeah, I think it's more about having that attitude and having that confidence in yourself and what you're doing. Be humble, and yeah, that will help you. That will help you carry along, because the knowledge is something that people can gain through time. However, attitude is very difficult to change in someone.
That's a very good point. Very, very good point there. Okay, so when we talk about some of your favorite parts about working at SoftwareOne, you had listed work-life balance. What does that look like for you within the context of SoftwareOne?
All right. So here at SoftwareOne, we have flexible working hours. We don't have to punch in at a time and punch out at another time. We are a company that focuses a lot on the person. The founder of SoftwareOne always said that the person was the most important active in the company, and that's something that stays, and that stayed, and that they're still they care about you. If there's something going on in your family, you can talk freely to your leader, and they will take care of you. They will make sure that you're okay, not only professional wise, but also personally. Of course, knowing that everything in the corporation is moving, but they care about you as a person. And if you need to go to a doctor's appointment, you can do that. It's fine at 11 in the morning. It's fine. So to me, that's work and life balance, where your colleagues and where your leader cares about you as a person, and where you have that flexibility of having time with your family and focusing on your job. You don't have to be focused 12 hours a day. As a matter of fact, if you're online late, somebody's going to write you like, hey, what are you doing? And if you are, then take some time off tomorrow. So that's, to me, that's the most amazing thing that we have here at SoftwareOne.
I love that. I absolutely love it. Fabiola, thank you so much for taking time to share with us today.
My pleasure.
It's not just not just the hour y'all see in front of here. I mean, there's a ton of work that goes in behind the scenes, and I'm really, really, really happy and really thankful that you were able to spend time with us today. Thank you.
My pleasure, Meg. Thank you so much for inviting me. I really enjoyed this. Connect with me via LinkedIn. If you have any questions, I'm more than happy to reply back. And I share a lot of information about SoftwareOne and about several different things. So you're more than welcome to send me an invite there via LinkedIn.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Fabiola.
You're welcome.
All right,
thank
y'all.
you, Meg.
That is going to bring us to the end of today's event, but I just want to say a quick thank you to all of us, to all of you who joined us today. You all took time out of your day to do something positive for yourselves. That's not an easy thing to do in this day and age. And it's not just because you took it and spent time with me. Obviously, I love that, but it's even more that you did something that's going to value and bring value to each one of you. So thank you so much for the time that you spent today with Powerfly and SoftwareOne. If this was your first Powerfly event, I hope it will not be your last, and we cannot wait to see you soon on another event.